An upcoming book reveals shocking new details about the Trump administration's criminally negligent COVID response. And Republicans blocked a voting rights bill as part of their ongoing attempt to dismantle our democracy. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. As eager as we all are to get back to normal, we can't lose sight of the fact that the COVID pandemic is still very much with us. Vaccination rates in parts of the country are lagging. Case numbers in some states are rising. A dangerous new variant is driving up infections in the UK, and models predict a possible surge of cases in the fall. And even as things get better overall, there are still constant reminders of how much our world has changed in the last 16 months. Every time I reach across the counter at my local coffee shop to grab my iced oat latte from the barista, only to accidentally punch the plexiglass partition that's still there to stop the spread of contagious droplets from a deadly disease, I think to myself, all right, COVID. Not that, I should note, the glass does anything. I'm pretty sure aerosols can find their way around a glass partition. It's like trying to keep ants out of your house with a sign. We're also constantly reminded, even 5 months after he left office, that Trump's response to the pandemic was somehow much worse and much crazier than we even knew at the time. Every day we keep hearing new details about his time in office, thanks to what seems like a never-ending parade of tell-all books scheduled for publication, each filled with more damning new details about just how much of a sociopath he was. There are so many Trump books on the shelves that he's bleeding into other books. The other day, my son found him next to Waldo. He's right here, kid. He's right here. And they all have titles that make them sound like straight-to-DVD Steven Seagal movies: Nightmare Scenario, Inflection Point, Tipping Point, Hoax, Rage, Fear, Fire, Fury, Fire and Fury, Fire and Fury 2, The Firest and the Furious. I mean, do these people actually read these? We all lived with a knot in our belly for 4 years. Who wants to read an 800-page deep dive about that? Be like reading a book called The Time You Waved at Sarah, but she was waving at someone behind you. Maybe they're all just those cutout books you can use to hide your weed from your dog walker. Besides, don't we all just get the craziest tidbits cherry-picked for us on Twitter or cable news or from late-night talk shows? Oh, and speaking of which, here's a cable news clip with a tidbit from a new Trump tell-all.
Stunning revelations this morning about the Trump administration's response during the early days of the pandemic. In a new book entitled Nightmare Scenario, Washington Post journalists Yasmin Abu-Tlaib and Damian Paletta report how President Trump suggested sending Americans with COVID-19 to Guantanamo Bay.
The book draws on early conversations as told by staffers and government leaders like this one, when White House officials debated whether to bring infected Americans home. Quote, "Don't we have an island that we own?" the president reportedly asked those assembled in the sit room in February 2020 before the U.S. outbreak would explode. Quote, "What about Guantanamo?" Aides were stunned, and when Trump brought it up a second time, they quickly scuttled the idea.
Only Trump would refer to Guantanamo Bay as an island that we own. It's such a reminder that he will always, first and foremost, be a real estate guy. Also, Guantanamo Bay is not an island, you dolt. It's right there in the name. It's a naval base and detention camp on the island of Cuba, an island we do not own because, and I'm not a history buff, but I think this is right, JFK couldn't pass the co-op board. I will say, it would have been hilarious watching Trump try to rebrand Guantanamo as a fun place for people to spend a week. Welcome to Guantanamo Spa and Resort. Make sure you check out the bay. I heard it is full of pigs. Also, was there like a fantasy football draft, but for the stories each staffer got to tell for their books? I can't decide between the time he wanted to send cruise ship passengers to Gitmo or the time he asked if he could legally send SEAL Team 6 to rough up Lorne Michaels. So I'm up late reading a first edition Evelyn Waugh, and I see that little red dot on the wall that they have on sniper rifles, and from that moment I knew it's SEAL Team 6. The Trump era was a catastrophe of unprecedented proportions, and yet Republicans are hell-bent on repeating it if they get a chance. That's why they're passing a barrage of voter suppression bills that would allow them to overturn future election results, and why they blocked the For the People voting rights bill yesterday. And yet, even with that brewing crisis on the horizon, there's a small group of Democratic senators who are still super concerned with preserving the filibuster and giving Republicans a veto over their agenda, like Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who made some truly ludicrous arguments in favor of the filibuster in an op-ed earlier this week.
Kirsten Sinema, wrote for the Washington Post. She said, to those who want to eliminate the legislative filibuster to pass the For the People Act, voting rights legislation I support and have co-sponsored, I would ask, would it be good for our country if we did, only to see that legislation rescinded a few years from now and replaced by a nationwide voter ID law or restrictions on voting by mail in federal elections over the objections of the minority?
Well, that's just how democracy works. You pass laws, and then if your opponents take power, they can change those laws, unless you rally public opinion to your side, which is your job as a politician. Didn't any of you people watch Schoolhouse Rock as a kid? Although I'm guessing in Cinema's case, she watched more, I don't know, music videos by ska bands. She looks like she's going to a Mighty Mighty Bosstones concert in 1992. At least that's the impression that I get. Your job is to make progress and then fight to protect that progress by galvanizing popular support. You can't just resign yourself to doing nothing because Republicans might eventually undo whatever bill you pass. For one thing, that's not a given. Republicans couldn't get rid of Obamacare even with a simple majority because it was super popular and people were outraged. Also, Republicans don't seem to care if they get support from Democrats. In fact, they're doing the opposite. Across the country, they're passing voter suppression bills on party line votes.
I followed all of these debates. They were party line, simple majority debates in Georgia, in Arizona, in Florida, in all of these states, making it harder to vote. And Republicans didn't say, oh, what will the Democrats say about us? We need bipartisanship. The entire point of voter suppression is to make it harder for your opponents to be able to vote. And so there's just two standards here. There's the game being played by Republicans in the states, where they do whatever they can to undermine democracy. Then there's the game being played by Democrats in Washington, where they fail to protect American democracy because of these arcane rules that nobody actually cares about. And in 100 years, nobody's going to care about the filibuster if the right to vote is undermined for decades.
He's right. No one gives a about the filibuster. Most people don't even know where it came from, why it exists, why it's called a filibuster, or where that word even came from. True story, it's a Dutch word, vrijbouwer, which translates to freebooter and was used to mean pirate. So by respecting the filibuster, we're loosely supporting pirates, which makes sense because basically Mitch McConnell's entire career has been him boarding the SS Democracy and saying, I'm the captain now. Too long a walk to get to the McConnell impression? Just long enough. I hope it was worth it because it's a real strain on my vocal cords. Not the part just now, the hours of vocal warm-ups. Oh, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. The jolly collie swallows a lollipop. Anyway, no one cares about the filibuster, and Democrats like Sinema and Joe Manchin need to stop playing by different self-imposed rules than Republicans. When Trump supporters were scaling the walls of the Capitol to overthrow the government, they weren't like, oh man, I hope the Democrats are cool with this. Should we have invited some of them, just for optics? The difference with Republicans is so infuriating. Democrats are worried that if they lose the next election, their legislation could get overturned, while Republicans are still trying to overturn the last election. In Arizona, the sham election audit has gotten so insane they're hunting for bamboo ballots and secret watermarks and sending copies of voting data to a mysterious laboratory in a remote location in Montana.
On this piece of property in a remote part of Montana, people may at this very minute be analyzing voting data from the state of Arizona as part of the so-called Arizona audit.
So as you might expect, we're left wondering where in the state of Montana are the copies of this voting data being analyzed? Where is the secure, powerful lab? So could the information be here? We could tell you as we walk up here, the first thing you see on this big piece of land is a sign. Private property, trespassing for any purpose is strictly forbidden. Violators will be prosecuted. So we can't cross this area. We can show you, though, from this area what looks like a cabin on this property. Is this the secure, powerful laboratory? Is Arizona voting data inside that cabin? We just don't know, but it could be.
Dude, be careful on the side of the highway or people are going to think you're a hitchhiker. Anderson, I'm currently in a windowless white van with a man named Rex who says I can crash with him for the night and have all the ice cream I want as long as I make a sacrifice of fresh deer meat to the wood spirit Galthkamar. Back to you, Anderson. That's how insane things are right now. CNN reporters are hunting for voting data on the side of a highway 3 states away because Republican shipped it to a secret location in the middle of nowhere with no outside observers in the name of election integrity. This is all starting to sound like a storyline from the next season of Ozark, which, thanks to his Netflix deal, stars Barack Obama. Laura, we got to find the ballots or the cartel will come after us. Sir, her character's name is Wendy. Well, let's dub it in later. ADR it. I'm in a groove. Every day we find out more about just how much of a nightmare the Trump era was, and every day Republicans do whatever they can to force that nightmare on us again. They're passing bills across the country, making it easier to overturn the next election and sending voting data to mysterious locations to overturn the last election. The guessing game about where Arizona Republicans sent all that voting data is getting so crazy, eventually we're going to have to ask,
What about Guantanamo?
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.